Notre Dame is well over the scholarship limit of 85 that it needs to get down to before the start of next season. And to break it all down is Tyler Horka, our blue and gold beat writer. We're going to go through some of the news and notes regarding Notre Dame's scholarship situation and just overall roster update. Before we dive into it, folks, please do hit the thumbs up on this video to support what we're doing here at Blue and Gold. And please do head over to our website as well. Join for only $29.99 to unlock premium access until the start of next football season. Tyler, hope you're well, man. We're going to just go through this. So players who left Notre Dame after the regular season, you have Drew Pine, the quarterback, who left, of course, for Arizona State. Jaden Bellamy, redshirted as a freshman for the Fighting Irish. He's going to go play for Syracuse. Asita Ekwonu, a defensive lineman who never really broke into the rotation. He's going to play for Charlotte. Kane Barong just committed to Coastal Carolina a few days ago. And then, of course, you have Michael Mayer, Isaiah Foskey, Brandon Joseph, and Justin Adewolola have all declared for the NFL draft. Tyler, we're just kind of assuming – hey, Ollie, by the way, your dog. We're just assuming Jarrett Patterson's declaring as well. We haven't had an announcement from him, but yeah, he's not much of a drama guy. We're just assuming that he is going to declare. And then Braden Lenzy retired. Any thoughts on those guys I just mentioned?
Yeah, I'll start right there with Patterson. We talked to him at the Gator Bowl. Notre Dame held a press conference the day before the game, and Marcus Freeman brought up two guys, J.D. Bertrand and Jarrett Patterson. I think those were the two. And Jarrett Patterson was talking like that was going to be his last game in a Notre Dame uniform. In fact, some of the questioning to him was, why are you playing in an era of opt-outs when really this game didn't mean a whole lot? And obviously Notre Dame wanted to win. It did win the game, but Patterson could have easily sat that out. It sounds like he's off to the NFL. So I would say that's not really a surprise. I don't think the Braden Lenzy thing was too much of a shock. That's a guy who's put his body through a lot over the last 5 years at Notre Dame. He wasn't really ever fully healthy the last couple of years. I remember him specifically telling me around this time last year, in January of last year, when we were talking to the guys who came back as graduates, he was one of those. He said, I played through an entire season with a bum shoulder. And as a wide receiver who's trying to fight through stuff at the line of scrimmage, get open, that's not very fun. So I wasn't surprised by that. We talked about Drew Pine for the last month and a half now. I don't think anyone was surprised by that one. But then you have some of those other ones that you mentioned, like Asita Ekwonu and Jaden Bellamy, two guys who are at totally different stages of their careers. Asita Ekwonu, a senior, he needs to get on the field, and he needs to get on the field now. But then Jaden Bellamy, I think he's a rising sophomore defensive back, right, who redshirted this year because he didn't play, and he's got 4 years of college football ahead of him. So you kind of see the gamut of everything that you see in the transfer portal these days. Old guys who are like, hey, I need to get out of here because I need to play 1 or 2 more years. And then younger guys like Bellamy who are like, hey, this might not be the spot for me. I'm going to get a fresh start while my career is still fresh and just go spend 4 years somewhere else.
You mentioned that last year you guys got to talk to Braden Lenzy as a part of those, graduate players who returned. So for this upcoming season, you've had Cam Hart, Matt Salerno, and Michael Vincent. DJ Brown, too, I believe.
I think he said he's coming back.
So those 4 are graduated from Notre Dame, but are coming back. And we have not seen. And again, we're in a day and age where everything gets announced. Like players who run out of eligibility and literally can't play college football anymore are announcing that they're done. So, which hey, maybe they need to, because who knows with that extra COVID year who has eligibility. So hey, I appreciate them doing it. But Maris Leofau, J.D. Bertrand, Jack Kaiser, some linebackers there, Howard Cross, an interior defensive lineman, Andrew Christophic, an offensive lineman, and Nana Asafa-Mensah, another defensive lineman. Those guys can return, have not said anything. We are expecting them all to return until further notice, at least. One player who is entering his senior season that personally for me, Tyler, I'm interested to hear your take on this, that I think could leave is, and I'm going to mention Chris Tyree here, but as we move in next to our topic about how Notre Dame's going to get down to 85, Tyree is more of an example than anything, because you want to, as potential players who could transfer, you want to look at who is up there, right? He's going into his 4th season at Notre Dame, but isn't, playing a ton, and has younger guys starting over him, right? So it's not like, oh, I'm a junior, the senior just graduated, now I'm going to step into that starting role. I mean, Tyree just has not been a featured back, and he's going into his 4th season. So I think for a lot of these guys, right, Tyler, the winter transfer portal period has ended, so you can't enter the portal until midway through spring ball, or in April, I believe. So Tyree's someone that's like, go through spring ball, see how that goes. If you're not the guy at running back, then your time's probably up at Notre Dame. Maybe we'll see. Maybe they move him to a different position. We're kind of speculating here, but do you kind of line up with my line of thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Tyree has been this guy for, it feels like, I don't want to say a full year, because if you go back to a year ago, I think everyone's thinking, okay, Kyron Williams is gone, Chris Tyree is going to be that guy. But then we watch spring ball very closely. Notre Dame does a good job opening these things up to the media. We watch spring ball, we watch fall camp. It became very clear that Audric Estime was probably going to be a dude in this running back room. What happens? He goes out and leads the team in rushing in 2022. Obviously, Logan Diggs looked really good all the way through spring ball, but then he tears his labrum in his shoulder, so he's out for all of the summer and then a lot of fall camp. But even when he was out and he was coming back, you got the sense that, okay, that guy's going to be a dude well, and he almost has as many rushing yards as Audric Estime. That's the clear 1-2, and there really is not a lot of room for a third. You heard Tommy Rees over and over this season say, we want to get all 3 involved. We want to get all 3 involved. Chris Tyree had a pretty good year. I mean, I think he had close to 500 rushing yards, maybe. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, he had a really solid year. But he could probably go anywhere else and get 1,000 yards and maybe 500 receiving yards, have like a 1,500-yard year. If that's what he wants to do, then I'm with you, Mike. It probably behooves him to go somewhere else, because clearly it's Estime, it's Diggs, and then I want to see what Jadarian Price looks like coming back from his Achilles injury, because I mean, you see him just walking around in a T-shirt and you're like, holy cow. I've used the word dude a couple times here. He could be one as well. So I do believe that Chris Tyree is in a really interesting situation.
10 out of 10, Tyler, for the use of behooves in a sentence. Much credit for that. So let's look at the scholarship chart now. So Notre Dame currently has 94 players on scholarship. That is a lot. And this is that time of the year where, yeah, there's recruiting going on. But as far as looking at the actual Notre Dame football team, it's fairly quiet. And this is a scholarship chart that Patrick Engel of Blue and Gold put together. He does a really good job keeping this updated. So Notre Dame brought in some grad transfers. Yeah, there you see 94 total, 45 offense, 45 defense, and then you have 4 special teams players. It's like, how many colleges in the country have 4 special teams guys on scholarships? You kind of have to wonder, is there any movement there? When does Notre Dame, Tyler, if you know, like, when do they need to be down to that 85? Do you have any reason for concern? Because again, 94 is a high number at this point.
No, it's January, so I'm not concerned. I'm pretty sure you don't need to be down to it until you get into fall camp. So they can go through all of spring and all of summer with these guys on the roster. That being said, it's not going to carry into, say, July or June, July, and definitely not August, because you mentioned that second transfer portal window. I think it opens up at the very beginning of May. I think you're going to see a flood of Notre Dame guys go in there. I personally am a little bit surprised that we didn't see it in this past window that just closed last week, because I think you have a handful of guys from a couple different position groups that you could probably see go in there. Notre Dame just signed a bunch of defensive backs, brought in a defensive back transfer from Oklahoma State. You probably see a couple DBs go in the portal. Offensive linemen, I mean, that room is pretty crowded as well. And there's a couple senior guys in that position group that haven't gotten on the field as much as they'd like to. You have a pretty young offensive line this upcoming season. If you figure that maybe Billy Schrauth might start, maybe Rocco Spindler might start, you still have those junior tackles. There's a lot of guys in that position group who could take the Chris Tyree approach, like we were talking about. If that's what Chris Tyree decides, and say, hey, I'm a really good football player, I could go play somewhere else. And of course, it comes down to whether or not these guys have their degrees, but there are a lot of seniors in that offensive line group who could leave. And I think this thing will sort itself out. What do we always say about the scholarship number getting down to 85, right, Mike? It's going to work itself out eventually. And I think the fact that there is another transfer portal window, that's when it's going to happen.
Yeah, Notre Dame will be to like 83. That's just always how it goes. It works itself out. There might be a surprise or two for everyone in Notre Dame Nation, maybe even the coaching staff. But again, it works itself out. One quick thought before we get out of here. There's some positions like a receiver. You can have heavy rotations, receiver, defensive line, defensive back, where you might not need if you're a player who's a rotational guy, you can still play a lot. Like if you catch 4 passes a game, that might be even high. But if you're catching 4 passes as like a freshman, sophomore, or even like a junior, that's solid. But if you're getting 4 touches a game as a running back, that's just not enough, right? Yeah. If you're a backup left tackle, you're not playing. Like you're just not playing. If you're a backup quarterback, you're not playing. If you're the backup long snapper or whatever, like you're not playing. There's some positions that are just, some positions that are just one guy, whereas others, you can be the number 5 or 6 receiver and still catch a few balls in a game. Like that's very realistic. We've seen it happen. So that's kind of another thing you keep an eye on moving forward. If you're at a position where there's just no path for you to play, you're more likely to go. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Please do drop a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got awesome stuff coming out the rest of this month and into February. I know slow time in the world of Notre Dame football, but we'll definitely have you locked in right here at blueandgold.com. So make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and as always, we'll catch you next time.